Hi everyone, it's Lindey. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to discuss how to handle buyers who are phishing for refunds. This is the first time we're meeting. Hello, my name is Lindey. I work from home as an e-commerce seller. I have a beauty store where I sell merchandise on eBay, and my entire YouTube channel is dedicated to helping other e-commerce sellers better their businesses. So if that kind of information interests you, please do make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. That way you're notified whenever I post new content. And if you like and appreciate that I do videos like this, also remember to hit that thumbs up button. It greatly benefits my YouTube channel, and I appreciate every time you take 1 second just to hit that thumbs up. This is a question that I see a lot in my comment section. It's also a question that I get a lot whenever I'm doing my weekly live streams. And so I figured because it comes up so frequently, I would just make a dedicated video discussing how to best handle this situation because it does come up a lot. And I know that there can be a lot of questions about how to best properly handle the situation so that you are not accidentally mistreating your buyers or doing something wrong in the eyes of the platform that you're trying to sell on. Of course, I have the most experience with dealing with these kind of buyers on eBay, but I've also dealt with them on other platforms as well. I'm going to be primarily discussing how to best handle buyers phishing for refunds on eBay, but I'm also going to refer to the other platforms because it's not just eBay that has these buyers who try to get a partial refund or a full refund. It's not just eBay, it's all selling platforms where this happens. Before we get into talking about the best ways to handle buyers phishing for refunds, I also want to thank the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare has been a longtime supporter of my YouTube channel. They are also on a mission to help stay-at-home entrepreneurs better their businesses. If you are unfamiliar with the Skillshare site, I wanted to let you know that it is an online learning community that has over 20,000 classes in multiple different categories. I really appreciate the classes that they have that are business related because these classes go into a lot of detail about things like branding your business, creating logos, Facebook storefronts. There are so many opportunities to learn more about e-commerce on the Skillshare site. The membership is also super affordable. You can get a premium membership for less than $10 per month. But if you sign up using my link down in the video description, you will get a free trial on the Skillshare site. We're starting to near the end of 2020, and so if you wanted to kick off your business in 2021, I highly recommend taking advantage of that free trial on Skillshare to learn more about bettering your business for the next year. And thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So now I have a suspicion that most sellers, when we encounter a buyer that is displeased in any fashion, our immediate response is to send them a refund just to make them happy. When you are an e-commerce seller who is selling on someone else's platform like eBay or Amazon, Poshmark, Mercari, any platform that you do not run entirely on your own, there is an incessant need to protect your seller feedback rating. Because it's this seller feedback rating that is what tells buyers that you are a reputable seller. The rating also gives you a level of credibility on the platform that you're trying to sell on. So when you encounter a buyer that is displeased, I know that as a seller, you want to initially do whatever you can to protect your seller rating. And a lot of the times when a buyer comes to you with an issue, in order to try to protect that rating, your first instinct might be to just refund your buyer entirely. But I want to try to deter you from doing that, and I'm going to tell you why. As business owners that deal with customers, I know that our first instinct is to do whatever we can to make the buyer happy because for decades upon decades, we've been inundated with the classic phrase, "the customer is always right." However, I think that we finally reached a point in time where that turn of phrase is so common amongst our customers that it has almost morphed into this ability for a buyer or a customer to use that turn of phrase to try to scam the system and get stuff for free. I think that we've kind of morphed into a time where sellers or business owners need to be leery of customers trying to scam them out of the money that they have rightfully earned. And that is one of the reasons why I am making this video, is to implore you, my fellow business owners, to not give your business away just to please your buyers. So I wanted to tell you about some of the instances where I have felt buyers are phishing for refunds from my own personal business, because hopefully me speaking from my experience and letting you know exactly how I handle these situations will help give you the confidence to better handle these kind of buyers with your business, so that you don't end up putting yourself out of business just by trying to people please your buyers. So now I do want to clarify that I do think that you should refund your buyer if there is a problem that is not your buyer's fault. This can include things like an item getting damaged during shipping, or if you sent them the wrong item, or if the item wasn't as described and your buyer didn't get the item that they purchased. In those instances, I do think that an immediate refund is necessary. Where I think giving an immediate refund is a bad idea is if the buyer is just complaining, because I feel like it is setting up expectations to that buyer to just complain more and more to other sellers. And I think it starts a trend that just leads to more scamming of businesses. Because I mean, think about it. If you were a buyer and you received something and were just a little bit displeased, and you sent a message to the seller that you purchased it from complaining a little bit, and you suddenly got all of your money back, in your psyche, that's going to tell you to just complain all the time. That way you get a bunch of stuff for free. And now I know that you might not think that, but there are a lot of buyers out there that would. It's this idea of classical conditioning. You might have heard about Pavlovs Dog back in the late 1800s. It's this idea that a stimulus causes a certain response. With Pavlovs Dog, it was a bell associated with food. Every time a bell was rung, that meant food was coming. And anytime a bell was rung, the dog would salivate, expecting food. It's the same kind of idea. It's the same concept as you don't want to reward your child for crying at the grocery store. If a child cries at the grocery store for a candy bar, and every time they cry, they get a candy bar, they're going to continue to cry every time you take them grocery shopping, because they're expecting a treat as a reward for crying. If you reward a buyer by complaining about their item, by giving them a full refund, they're going to continue to complain just to get stuff for free. And as sellers, we don't want that, because we are not in business to just give away stuff for free. That will put us out of business. And I feel like as sellers, we all need to work together to prevent this from happening. And this is not an easy thing to battle, especially with Amazon. Speaking from experience as an Amazon seller, Amazon is so eager to please its buyers, you don't even have to receive the item back before Amazon has already initiated the buyer's refund upon their return. All the buyer has to do is ship something back. The seller doesn't even have to confirm that the buyer returned the proper item. The buyer just gets their money back. With platforms like Amazon so eager to people please and give their buyers refunds, us sellers have to band together and work even harder to protect our businesses from buyers wanting to scam us out of money just because they might be the slightest bit dissatisfied. And the funny thing is, a lot of the times, I don't even believe that these buyers are dissatisfied. They just know, because they've been conditioned to think that if they complain, they're just gonna get their money back. So they'll find anything to complain about. So let me tell you the top 3 instances that I've had buyers phishing for refunds. The first one being that the expiration date on the item is just even the slightest bit different than what is indicated in the listing itself. There was one instance in particular that stands out in memory just because I was so annoyed with this buyer. This happened back at the beginning of summer, so it was a few months back. I had indicated in the listing that this particular sunscreen expired in December of 2021. So at the time, the expiration date indicated in the listing was more than 18 months away. So the buyer ended up receiving their sunscreen, and lo and behold, I guess there was a few sunscreens that had an expiration date a little bit sooner, and this particular sunscreen expired in August of 2021. And keep in mind, this was like May or June 2020. So even August 2021 was well over a year away. But yet this buyer wanted to complain that the sunscreen expiration date wasn't as indicated in the listing, and so they wanted me to refund them, because had they known that the expiration date was 4 months sooner, they never would have bought it from me, which I immediately call BS, because it was supposed to expire for over a year. Why would you not have wanted to buy it if it expired in August 2021 versus December 2021? That made no logical sense to me. I knew that they were just fishing for a refund. And this is not the first time that I've had to deal with a buyer who wanted a refund just because the expiration date was different than what was indicated in the listing. There was also expiration dates that were further out that people complained about. If I said that something expired in December 2020 and it actually expired in June of 2021, they would complain that the expiration date was different than indicated in the listing, which, why would you complain that an expiration date ended up being later than stated in the listing? No logical sense. I think it was just them fishing for a refund. I've also had buyers come to me saying that the specific color of the cosmetic that they purchased was not what they expected. Not that it was wrong, just not what they expected. Maybe the lipstick was a little bit more pink. Maybe the eyeshadow was just a tad more gray than black. I've even had buyers complain that the consistency of a product was different than they remember. Yeah, that's right. You heard me correctly. The consistency was different than what they remembered. Not that the consistency was bad, that the consistency was different from a previous product that they had bought in the past that was identical or similar to the one that they bought from me. I have buyers complain about the weirdest stuff. And there's honestly no reason for them to complain about that unless they're fishing for some sort of refund, or if they're wanting me to basically put my foot in my mouth so that they have an opportunity to open a case with eBay so that they can get their money back. So now let me tell you about how I handle all of these buyers. I basically just respond with something to the likes of, "I'm sorry if you're disappointed. You are welcome to send it back for a full refund." That's it. I think that a lot of sellers out there are worried about encouraging buyers to open returns because maybe you don't want to have to pay for the return shipping, or maybe you don't want the buyer to open it as an item not as described so it can have a negative effect on your seller account. But here's the deal. I don't have a problem telling these buyers to initiate a return if they want their money back, because 9 times out of 10, they won't do it. And it's because they've been conditioned by platforms like Amazon, who are so eager to refund buyers, or they've been conditioned by sellers that are so eager to protect their seller rating and avoid negative feedbacks or less than 5-star service, that they're just willing to throw money back at their buyers to protect it. And that has been conditioning buyers to just whine and complain to try to get some of their money back. So to combat that, I just tell them that I'm sorry if they're dissatisfied and they're welcome to return it for a full refund. And then I never hear from them again. Because I mean, beyond that, what can they do? Continue to complain? Yeah, that's happened. They've continued to complain before. And if they continue to complain, I will respond once more and say, I indicated all of the proper information in the listing. I'm sorry if you are not happy. I will gladly give you a refund if you return the item. And if they continue to try to get a refund, then I just simply stop replying. If the buyer wants that refund, or if they want to complain so badly that they will just incessantly continue, they can go ahead and open a case in eBay. I'm done with them. You have to remember that you are a business. If you are selling online for profit, even if you don't have an official business license, even if you're just a sole proprietor making a little bit of extra money flipping stuff on eBay, or if you're wanting to grow an Amazon business, or if you're selling stuff out of your closet on Poshmark or Mercari, you have to have the confidence and know that even without a business license, you should still conduct yourself as a business and stand up for that business for these buyers who are wanting to take money out of your pocket. Because think about it, Walmart is a perfect example of this. Let's say you go to Walmart and you buy a t-shirt. Let's say you take the t-shirt home and you decide that you don't like it for whatever reason. Maybe you're even willing to lie and say that the t-shirt has a small hole in it so that you can try to get some money back for it. And you pick up the phone and you call the Walmart that you just bought it at and you say, "Hi, I was just there and I bought a shirt and it has a hole in it. I want my money back." What do you think Walmart is gonna say? Do you think that Walmart is going to say, "No problem, just read me your credit card number and I'll send you a refund"? No, Walmart is going to say, if there's a hole in the shirt and you just bought it, bring it back here and we'll give you a refund. And make sure you bring your receipt. Walmart is not going to just refund your card because you simply called and complained to them. They're going to tell you to walk your happy butt back into their store, give them your receipt, and then they will oblige. You need to operate your online store the exact same way. Just because a buyer wants to call you or email you and complain because they're dissatisfied in some way doesn't mean that you should just throw their money back at them. You need to make them work for it if they are unhappy and it's not something that you did wrong. Again, I have to say, if you as the seller did something wrong, if you misrepresented the item, if the item got damaged upon delivery, if it's something that is not the buyer's fault, then yes, you should oblige and you should give them some sort of refund, if not a full refund, at least a partial refund. But if a buyer is just complaining, make them return it. Don't just be so eager to give them the item for free and their money back. Now I want to talk about the sellers out there that do not offer returns and you're dealing with a buyer. Because I know the minute I said just tell them to return it, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't offer returns, I'm not going to tell them to return it. I do also feel the need to point out that if a buyer is dissatisfied, even if a seller does not offer returns, a buyer can still push a return by filing it as an item not as described, and eBay can force you to take that return, so I do implore you to keep that in mind. Just because you say I don't take returns doesn't mean that a buyer can't push hard enough to make it so. So rather than encourage your buyer to open up an item not as described return, then what I would say to you if you do not offer returns in your eBay store is that you would just firmly reply to your buyer that you described the item accurately within the listing and let them know that you do not take returns and you're sorry that they are dissatisfied, but it's an as-is sale. From there, the buyer would have to know and initiate already that they would need to open up an item not as described return just to get their money back. But as a seller, if you choose to not offer returns, you absolutely need to make sure that you are describing the item in the listing accurately. I think in this day and age, sellers are almost expected to be taking returns from buyers. So if you are going to be one of those sellers that refuses returns, you need to make sure that you are accurately representing your item in the listing to keep your item not as described returns down. Because we are in a time where buyers want to make sure that they are 100% satisfied, otherwise they expect to return their goods. So as a seller who is consciously going against the grain and not participating in this assumed policy of always taking returns, it's your responsibility to make sure that you are accurately representing your item in the listing. So now the two platforms where you do have a little bit more protection with returns would be Poshmark or Mercari, strictly because the buyer is expected to contact the platform if they want to return an item, and there does have to be something wrong in order to return it. Unless something has changed, which I don't think it has, on Poshmark Poshmark, you cannot just return something because you feel like it. The item has to be misrepresented, or there has to be a problem with the item in order for Poshmark to accept the return for the seller. Same thing with Mercari. There has to be a problem with the item in order for a return to be accepted by Mercari. However, with those platforms, you as the seller don't have any control, just like with Amazon. If Mercari decides to accept the return, then you're accepting the return. If Poshmark decides to accept the return, then you're accepting the return. The only platform where you even stand a chance to say, I don't take returns, is eBay. But unfortunately, if a buyer claims that the item is not as described, you can be forced to take the return anyway. And that's just the e-commerce world that we're living in. It's not even just e-commerce, but brick and mortar stores as well. This is the time that we live in. People are expecting to be able to return items. And if they're dissatisfied, they will likely say and do whatever they need to in order to get their money back and return the item. But if the buyer is not willing to go through the hassle of returning the item, do not just refund them. Just sending them a refund is definitely contributing to the problem. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below, what kind of buyer phishing tactics have you experienced? Because I know that I've dealt with a lot of really strange situations. I'm curious to hear from you guys what kind of phishing tactics you've experienced with your buyers. Also, don't forget to check the video description for the link to get a free trial on the Skillshare site. Also, remember to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you guys again so much for watching. I will see you with my next video. Bye-bye.